Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started then. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Economic Development Council meeting. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order on July 10th at 8:30. I think it's still 8:30. Approval of the minutes is first on the agenda. Councilmember Sundberg, do you have any changes?
I approve them as they are.
Thank you. Same here. So we will approve the minutes and we'll move on to our first order of business, which is the HOA Community Group Registration Update.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Scott Campbell. For those that don't know me, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come out and talk about our community group registration program. Give me just a second here and I will go ahead and share my screen. We are. Hopefully everyone can see it. Let me know if you can't. So again, today, going to talk about the community group registration program and kind of the updates we've made to it over the last year. Just for kind of a quick overview for those that aren't aware, community groups of various types can register with us in the Community Engagement Division in Housing and Community Services. This registration allows staff and developers to notify registered groups of development that occurs within 1 mile of those groups' boundaries. This notification typically occurs once a development team has made application with planning and allows the groups to provide comments, questions, and to request community meeting with the development team. Last June, Councilmember Bergan was great in providing some helpful guidance on the process via a resolution. In particular, with those updates, I'll kind of go through what changed due to that. So historically, the registration consisted of collecting contact information for at least 3 individuals in the group, as well as collecting the group's boundaries. That breakdown used to be a president contact, a referral contact, which that is the contact that gets the development notification. And then we would usually ask for also a board member or property manager. Registration renewals used to occur once a year with an automated email notice being sent out requesting updates. Those updates would be on a rolling basis, so it kind of just depended when the group would register. And that system at the time required kind of a lot of back and forth between staff and the resident groups just so we could make sure we collected all of that information. Currently, we have moved to a nice new system as of March of this year. With that change, we went ahead and updated the contacts that we request. So now we ask for a president as well as 2 referral contacts per that resolution. The registration renewal occurs now every 6 months as well instead of a year. Again, it's an automated email notice that gets sent out asking for that updated information. This one also occurs on a rolling basis. So again, it just depends on when the groups register as to when they'll need to renew. And this system is a lot more automated than our previous system. So it actually allows those groups to kind of register at their own pace on the new website we set up rather than having that kind of constant back and forth. So you can see that we did implement the 2 items from the resolution. That's been working very well for us in terms of the pulling the information inside. And that's really the big kind of changes to the system. So I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have for me.
And Mike, any questions, Councilmember Sundberg?
Let's see. So the purpose of this was to notify HOA groups with new development coming their way within a mile radius.
Correct.
Okay. And with the automated system, is there a verification process if people aren't responding?
So the way it kind of works is that with the new system, they submit an application to us. We review all of the information to make sure it's a legitimate kind of application. If it is, we approve it, and then they have that 6-month window, at which point, if they do not renew with us, they essentially kind of, it falls to an inactive status, which means they wouldn't receive that notification. So it's very important for all of those groups to ensure we're constantly getting that updated information so we can make sure it's getting to the right people.
Okay, one thing I wouldn't mind seeing this do as well,
Yeah.
than the development notification, is to notify HOAs of town hall meetings.
Okay. We
If
do.
possible. Do you
Yeah,
do
and
that
we
already?
do. So we currently take what I do as in addition to taking the sign-in sheets from y'all's meetings. I also provide council staff. It's usually every 6 months. It depends. Some council members request it a little bit more frequently, but we do take the information from here when we can define it by ward. Some groups kind of overlap wards just due to the size of them. But yes, we do provide these lists to get them updated so we can hopefully get some more participation in those town halls.
So you take those lists and the city sends out HOA notifications, or excuse me,
S-
town hall notifications?
Yeah, we input them into the database of each of your kind of listservs, if you will, and then it's my understanding that those from there the emails go out from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, and thank you for making the changes. I did have one question. When you have a brand new Metro District, for example, because a lot of them have merged HOA with the Metro District, you is planning giving you that information?
No, so planning is really they're involved in kind of the notification piece of it. My team is really responsible for the data collection and kind of management. So we, if they run into issues and things like that, they'll let us know. For example, if a group reaches back out to them and says, hey, we don't want this notice anymore, or we need to update our contacts, they'll kind of refer them over to us so we can make those changes. But otherwise, we allow the groups to kind of set their own boundaries, because while we do have traditional HOAs, which obviously have very kind of particular legal boundaries, if you will, we also allow for other group types to register, just for example, community groups, like we have some community garden groups. And because they have gardens across the city, they kind of have funky boundaries based on that. Um, but yeah, and again, if there are major issues, we're always happy to work with anybody to make those corrections.
Okay, but if planning gets an application for a new development, a commercial development, a retail development, that they definitely coordinate with your department. Because I think I got an email from Brad Pierce. He's not able to be here, but it was regarding Woodgate Terrace, I think. And the quick stop at Smoky Hill and Chambers. He said he'd never received an email with the application information. So I don't know if that's been worked out by now.
Yeah,
And what the issue was.
if it's the instance I'm recalling, I think they were like just outside of the mile boundary or something odd like that. We did check in with them and we did get it corrected, and sent the notification out, so they had it. But if I recall, there was something funky and it was just a matter of them being just outside the boundary or something along those lines. But we did get in touch with Brad and that group to correct that and loop them in.
Okay, and have you had any feedback from any of the HOA or any of the neighborhood associations?
Um, as far as kind of the notification portion goes, not too much as far as like good or bad. Again, it's usually more along the lines of like, hey, I don't live in this neighborhood anymore. Please update with the group. Otherwise, again, planning really handles kind of that notification piece. The other kind of half of what we do with our list is we kind of tie grants and things to this process to incentivize groups to kind of get involved with us. So we kind of handle more of those side of things, which is always fun. We get to do a lot of fun things with those grants, but yeah, as far as kind of the notification piece, again, at least the bits that I do touch in with them now, they are getting the notification by and large effectively.
Okay, but when the email went out, you sent it out or planning sent it out? You did, right?
For the actual notification to the groups.
For the new process that you need 2 referral contacts.
Oh yes. So that came from us. We did a big transfer over back in March, and so groups, because of that 6-month window in September, will start getting kind of the real renewals. But we did send out notifications saying, hey, we've got a new process. Here's kind of what it looks like, and then. Of course, people paying attention to those emails we send out is always questionable, but we're always happy to kind of work with people and let them know what the new process is, and we've got a nice set of instructions on our website now. So.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
that was where I was going was, if you sent that email out with the new process, but they never respond.
Yeah. And there is some of that. When I came on, we've had some historic records, is what I call them, or legacy records, perhaps, where for whatever reason, the group kind of fell off. We usually do try to do a little bit of kind of due diligence, especially for larger groups that we know have been active with us. We try to find contact information and reach out, but for some neighborhoods, frankly, that's not always available for whatever the reasons may be. But yeah, we do try to keep it up to date again, especially for those larger groups.
Okay. And you know what might be good at my next town hall, Scott? If you remind me to have you speak on that.
Sure.
Just, to let them know we have a new process and we need to know your contacts, and we update it every 6 months. I think even for other council members that have their town halls, it might be good just to put that information out there.
For sure. I'd be happy to.
Okay, great.
And
And
council
Janine, you were gonna
member-
say something.
Yes, if I may, Janine Rusted, Director of Planning and Business Development. What we're talking about this, when HOAs go silent, don't re-register. It's been a couple years since I looked at the state website, but they had a significant percentage of HOAs that have not registered with the state either. And I know I live in one where we have a management company and I keep asking them, "Well, what's up with the board?"
Yeah, no, I'm sure, very difficult. Okay, well, thank you so much, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we will go ahead and move on to the housing UDO analysis update. And Janine, are you?
That is
Presenting?
me, Janine Rustad again, Director of Planning and Business Development. I think this is our third month in a row presenting on the housing UDO analysis. Since our last meeting in June, we've had a small group meeting with developers. Councilmember Bergan, you were present as well. In that meeting, we refined the scope of work as well as goals, which I'll get into. We've also had 3 additional now meetings with staff. This is interdepartmental, and we are bringing in, so far it's been planning, housing and community services, and parks, recreation, and open space. But as we're seeing issues or what developers see as challenges. I hate issues. It just seems so controversial. But as we are working with our partners, if we need to bring in traffic or water, we will do so. But we're trying to respect people's time because, again, the big push citywide is on the process improvements that are also ongoing. We've continued, and that is primarily Brandon and his team, Brandon Camerata and Mindy Parnes and her team, to do background research. And I'll give you a little teaser of that information that we're going to roll out at today's roundtable. We have a 2-hour roundtable with developers this afternoon. So let me just go through the housing goals. This actually came from Mindy Parnes, one of our managers, that we should have goals for this project because there is a balance we're trying to strike here. Just, we all know this, that we do want to encourage more housing production and housing across different housing types and varieties across different price points. We're being very intentional not to say affordable or attainable because especially in the planning world, those have definitions. We are going to have to update our definition of affordable housing to comply with Proposition 123. But again, we want to get that balance of the different housing types, different price points, while maintaining livability. We want Aurora to continue and even strengthen being a place we can be proud to call home. I'm going to call out one developer that we've been working on some of this even ahead of the housing analysis, Painted Prairie and Windler, where they see the importance of mixing those income types within neighborhoods, really to get that cross-pollination of socioeconomic and being, I'm looking at the mayor, being a military brat. I love this because it's no longer you have your enlisted folks over here and your officers over there and put something in between them. I got to smile. So we also
I lived in the non-officer housing as well.
Yeah. We actually moved off base, and off base we had that mix on our little rural street in Upper Michigan. But with maintaining livability, there are a few things that are very, very important to us as planners, and those are the street connectivity. And sometimes that's about cars. A lot of times that's about people. How can people walk? Because you want to be able to walk to your neighbor, walk to the park. I love being able to walk to a grocery store or a restaurant. So as much as we can provide that, we also want the usable open space. Again, that is very intentional. It could be a private park, it could be a public park, it can be what we called, when I was in Parks and Rec, the tot lot, but not that corner green space where you have your marquee entry sign. Sometimes there's credit for open space for that, but that's not open space. We want it Because as we have smaller lots, people need somewhere to play, somewhere to get fresh air. We are looking at, street frontage. I was thinking about this as I was running last night, that in Oregon, which touts itself as having great planning, where they have rows of townhomes that face basically either just drive aisles or parking, and it doesn't create a good sense of community. I mean, you get in your car and you go somewhere, but it doesn't encourage people to get out and mingle with their neighbors. It's just, it looks like manufactured housing, just, imagine a cookie cutters churning them out. So we want to make sure, and that's one of the elements that is important, is to have buildings face the street, to have that communication. Timelines for approvals came up with a small group, and we are going to look at that a little in the housing analysis, particularly where it comes to multifamily housing. At times that we do require planning and zoning, even though it's a permitted use. So we need to look at that, and especially how we treat sub-area C with sub-areas A and B, small lots. And finally, we want to quantify the impact that changes have on housing costs. And the developer partners were very good in reminding us that's a two-way street. So, while we may be giving them cost savings in building their homes, we want to make sure that that gets passed on, or we hope that it gets passed on to the home buyers, because ultimately the market sets the price of housing. But also things we require can add costs. So we'll have that conversation on how these elements blend and we come up with a good solution. So those were the goals that were in your packet. Any question on those?
Councilmember Sundberg?
Thank you, Janine. What are 2 or 3 examples of suggestions that these developers are making that might challenge the traditional way of thinking of the city, or that might make sense?
Let me the wrong thing got attached here. But let me pull up. They did submit to us, they being developers have started their own analysis of the UDO.
Wasn't parking one of the issues?
Parking. And actually, let me just go. I have the PowerPoint up that I'm going to be giving this afternoon at the round table. And this is a blend of what they found and what we have found looking at adjustments that have been granted since the adoption of the UDO. One is our building design standards. Masonry comes up a lot as we have a certain percentage. And again, we're working with Windler and Painted Prairie. They have given us examples where you can have no masonry, but still have quality design. Parking, whether that's in single family or multifamily, does parking have to be covered? Can you have just a driveway parking space or a carport versus a garage? Something that we're aware of, and this was an adjustment, I think, before or right after our last PED meeting, motor courts. Right now, we do not allow duplexes on motor courts, but we did grant that adjustment. So the quantity of dwelling units on either a green court or a motor court, and that one in particular might be one of our low-hanging fruit, where we'll be able to do a relatively quick amendment. Again, reserving staff time right now to draft any amendments necessary for the process changes. Landscaping may be another one to look at. That comes into play more with multifamily and industrial and commercial, but it's where we've seen a number of adjustments. And then cottage housing standards, right now we limit those to 10 acres. We've been asked to look at broadening that. Multifamily, the definition of that. We've had several for rent projects that have been proposed in the city. Zoning does not distinguish between for rent or for sale. Zoning is about your lots, your setbacks. It doesn't get into that. So, but there is room to look at the definition of multifamily. Right now, it has to be 100% vertical, but can we do some mix within a building? So where you might have some 2 or 3 story and then some single townhomes. And with that platting and the water meters. So that will probably be a longer term look at, not a quick fix, because we would have to bring in the other departments. One thing that we also, in addition to looking at adjustments from the Planning and Zoning Commission, the team looked into the Board of Adjustments. And fence heights on arterials is one we see a lot of. So again, another quick fix. So since we're on this topic, we did our preliminary analysis, and since the adoption of the UDO in 2019, there have been 1,749 cases in 869 development applications. So you can have several cases in an application, a master plan amendment and a site plan. Since January 2021, there's been approximately 9,000 new dwelling units approved, including 3,500 multifamily. So we are making progress. It's never enough. It's never enough anywhere. The telling thing is only 9% of the cases required major adjustments. That tells us the zoning code is working, and we can't regulate for every possible scenario. Things are changing. There's a site might be constrained due to the slope, the size, stream corridors. So adjustments, again, are that ability for staff to work with a developer to get somewhere that works for everybody, including the developer, the city, and the future residents. But with that said, we do know that there are target areas for improvement in the UDO. This is a living document, and I like having this baseline, because now going forward, every few years, we can look and say, what are the adjustments we've seen? The one that we dealt with already in 2022 was a multifamily building length. Those were 8% of our adjustments at the time. So we changed that. We haven't seen an adjustment on that since. I'm glad I'm looking this over, finding a typo in my presentation. With the neighborhood adjustments, so your site plans, we are seeing adjustments for small lots and sub areas A and B. So it begs the question of, should we be expanding that housing type to be allowed throughout the city, not just in the new areas? Double frontage lots, one we've seen a number of adjustments. I think there's been 2 or 3 just this year. So that might be another easy, quick fix. That's what I had for you today. We have timeline was one thing I wanted to hit on. When we said wrapping up phase 1, which again, phase 1 is our research and potentially starting some of the easier UDO adjustments. When we told the developers October, they said that's way too ambitious. And it's nice hearing that from them, that we can take some more time. I'm still keeping the timeline ambitious with having the research both by the developers, because we're going to look to them and say, what are some good examples from other jurisdictions where you're working? Let us review those codes. What do you see as best practices? We'll be doing our own research on best practices and other codes. So having that extend through October and then start another round of roundtables, and by that point, we'll probably break them up. Within that time, though, I predict that we'll have some small group meetings, as we've got Norris Design working with a few of the developers. So working with them to flesh out more of these things, see how we can group them, and just to keep things moving, keep the conversation. Also, I will be probably poking a lot of the developers and their consultants with questions, getting some of those best practices and ideas. And then what we'd like to do with PED is come back in August so we can update you on this first round table. But then unless something big happens in September and October, I don't want to have something on the agenda and just say, hey, we're doing research,
Right.
but notify you when there's something significant.
So on the timeline, because I just want to make sure people don't get the wrong impression. When you said that the developer said it was very ambitious, I think it was one developer, but multifamily. You mean the whole UDO and all all the changes in incorporated, and not just phase one?
This is phase one, which is the research, but phase one, I do anticipate that some of those low-hanging fruit breaking off. We still need to have the bandwidth to draft those UDO amendments,
Right.
and that would probably be October, November that we could start doing that. We're very focused, we're hyper focused on timeliness, making sure that development review remains on time. We've just lost a couple of our planners. We were fully staffed for 2 weeks, so we hope to get back there. Second priority are the process improvements, and that's all hands on deck across departments. Once those get drafted and start going through the approval process, we have time in-house to start doing some code drafting. I'm sure Brandon and his team may shudder. I'm already looking at things like definition of affordable housing, small things that I can start on, but I will need the expertise of the current planning team who implements this to cross-check, because there's, the code is big and there's always
Right.
these cross threads.
But in this afternoon's meeting, if there are developers that come in and have, I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen this afternoon with their suggestions, and maybe they've already communicated those to you. But if they have, like you said, low-hanging fruit where something possibly could get done without having to go through adjustments, I mean, that could possibly happen before October, right? As far as one change in the UDO, or I'm thinking of the parking, for example, because there was a discussion on, there's a requirement for a certain amount of parking, off-street parking, but if a particular product offers a garage, I think there was discussion of, can't we then reduce the number of street parking if we offer other parking? I might be getting it all wrong, but
we also want to be efficient with staff time. We do have a pretty extensive list of things we have to do for the legislator by next July. So to the extent we can bring packages together, so we have to deal with parking for the legislature. So if we can roll in anything that comes up with parking from this discussion, we will do so. We're also working on what we'll call a pilot with Windler, where some of these ideas, they will go through with adjustments and we can see what it looks like, and then figure out how to codify that. Because sometimes things sound easy, but when you, again, look at those tendrils throughout the code, it takes a lot of time to draft code.
okay.
So Laura, did you want to?
No, I was just going to add, we are looking at added contracted resources to help with code drafting, red lines, things like that, to support planning, to help move all of this forward.
Okay, great. Mayor, did you have any comments or questions?
No, pleased with the process, and also that you're going to augment our capability to move it faster, I think is great.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
did have one comment, and when you were talking about, masonry changes and so forth, but yet keeping, we don't want everything cookie cutter, obviously. You're going to look at compatibility. That's always confusing when it comes, when there's an application for a project and you have constituents that don't feel something is compatible within their neighborhood. So I guess keeping that I don't want us to look at just making broad changes without looking at compatibility of specific neighborhoods. And that doesn't mean just like, oh, sub area B or sub area C. I mean, within those
Mhm.
sub areas, there's distinct change, I guess, characteristics of neighborhoods. I don't know, does that make sense?
It does, and we will work closely with legal on this. Compatibility is, sometimes there's a lot of case law around it. I am not a licensed attorney in Colorado, nor have I practiced, but yeah, it's a sticky one because even I'm thinking of some of the cases in your ward where you have single family to multifamily, and that multifamily is a permitted use by zoning. And typically, if it's a permitted use, then it is compatible. But how do you make those transitions? And yes, hear you loud and clear. And Lena says she's here if she has anything to add. But
It's, I just know it always comes up and it's very subjective as far as, like,
and with
what does that
zoning, we
really
want to
mean?
make things as objective so you can measure. So if it goes before planning and zoning, or if it's an administrative decision, to me, there's clear criteria. But that's another balance we're getting at for both the developers, community, and the city, that balance between certainty, predictability, to quote Jacob Cox, and flexibility.
Right. Yeah. Mayor, you have your.
Well, just,
hand up.
yeah, I just want to say that I think walkability is so important to me. Having grown up in Aurora, and I think in the 70s and 80s, when we got into these large neighborhoods without formal associations, but that aren't walkable. And I think that's a real difference between some of the single family detached communities in Denver versus Aurora, is that there's an integration with things like, smaller grocery stores and things like that that are walkable. And I just think that so important. I get the suburban identity, but it'd be nice to, whatever we can do to move away from them.
Yeah.
You're speaking our language, and it's funny you say suburban identity. Laura might be laughing because she knows what I say. Aurora is a city. We are probably over 400,000. We should be getting those numbers soon. And we have industry, we have jobs, we have entertainment, we have housing, we have education, we have everything that would make a city. We have suburbs within the city, but absolutely, how do we become, and that's part of our the connecting Aurora.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was very informative. Councilmember Sundberg, any other further comments or?
Just real quick, thank you. You mentioned a cross-pollination of socioeconomic inventory that's important to Windler and Painted Prairie. I know that that's important to the Highlands developers as well. And you may be familiar, they wanted to flip-flop some zoning in there to make that happen. I just want to let you know I support that. I don't know how many council members they have met with yet, but to provide cover and support that, I want to let you know that's something I would support, if it's familiar to you.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Janine, and we'll go ahead and move on to the miscellaneous matters. I don't even see if anyone has a report. Is there anyone from one of the outside boards or committees that has a report?
I know Mr. Dalton did.
So Brad
Did I miss
Pierce,
that?
oh, sorry, Brad Pierce is actually out. There is something included in the packet. And then Marcia McGilly, small business, has a report as well.
Okay, and then Bruce, did you have a report?
Yeah, just a quick update. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and go with Bruce first, and then we'll have Marcia.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to mention, obviously, most of you know that the Triple Crown Sports hosted the women's softball tournament in Aurora. It's the largest softball tournament in the nation with over 1,000 teams participating. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the pros department. I was out at the sports park last week, and I've never seen it look better. The fields were in amazing condition. Triple Crown Sports was extremely happy, and they're looking forward to coming back next year. Also, thanks to Councilmember Sundberg and Legends for sponsoring the Triple Crown charity golf tournament that raised funds for a number of nonprofits here in Aurora. And then also, we just launched our Aurora Borealis Festival website at auroraborealisfestival.com. And that's November 1st through the 3rd at the Aurora Highlands Winged Melody Park. And I just found out yesterday that commercials will be airing during the Broncos game on 10:17 and 10:30 on Channel 7. So that's exciting. And lastly, we kicked off the Brews Cruise, Aurora Brews Cruise, on July 1st. And if you want more information on that, go to our website and type in Brews Cruise for all the details. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, Marcia?
Morning. Thank you for a little bit of time here. Just wanted to let you know that the state directors, so that's 14 small business development centers across the state, all met in Ridgeway for our biannual directors meeting. Things on the agenda that I wanted to update you on. First and foremost, we began a 3-year strategic plan since we were approved this year for our accreditation. So we did all of the work. It's not put together yet, but I will share the highlights when that comes. Second, the new Minority Business Office Director has been hired. She was there. Her name is Azarel Madrigal. She's very enthusiastic and really wants to work with us. In fact, she's coming next week to meet with the SBDC and our Spanish language group and our consultants. So we have a meeting early on. I think we're the first one. OEdit is coming with the MBO director to have a collaboration meeting. And then finally, the SBA has a new 7A working capital pilot program. They've never done this before. It is coming. I have no more details than to tell you that it is coming. So I will update you when we know more. And we're real excited about that because we have some small businesses that would be very, very helpful for. That's all I have today. Are there any questions?
Any questions? I don't think so. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you so much.
And I think I was going to ask on the oil and gas, and I didn't look at the report from Brad. Did they fill the vacancy that existed? Do we know? There's Jeffrey.
Good morning, Councilmember. This is Jeffrey Moore, manager of the Energy and Environment Division. Yes, they did fill one of the vacancies. Martian Berzins was appointed for a 3-year term.
Okay.
We do still have one citizen, actually, I think it's an industry vacancy on the committee that we're looking to fill in the future.
Okay, great. And then Planning and Commission, I know Bob Roth, former council member, is on our meeting today and is on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And who else was on there? I saw Melvin and also Becky. Becky, did you have you have a meeting tonight, I assume?
Took me a bit to get off of mute, but yes, we do have a meeting this evening. I think we have 4, if not 5 agenda items. The reason that I'm hesitating is there are a couple of agenda items that speak to the same project. So we continually stay busy with Planning Commission.
Okay.
So that's it.
Okay, all right. I think that's all on reports unless somebody has one that I'm not aware of. Okay, all right. Well, the meeting is adjourned. We have our next meeting for August 14th at 8:30. So everyone have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.